assuming I've curated a relatively nerdy following by now. So I just want to know, does anyone remember amino?
OMG, she said the name of the video.
Now, I am hoping that a lot of you guys do remember amino, especially considering that I have friends that I made like 5 years ago on amino that I still talk to and know about this YouTube channel. So I will be just a little bit sad if they're not watching, and they'd be a little fake for that, okay? I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, for those of you not familiar with amino, it's basically, sorry, I have a lisp, I have a retainer in. Anyways, for those of you not familiar with amino, it is basically a social media app slash platform that was purposed for fandoms, really. Amino was created in 2012 and officially launched as an app in 2016. As I mentioned, it was made specifically for like fandom, but what made the site unique was that there were different aminos for specific interests, essentially making its own site for each specific fandom. Wikipedia says the original creators wanted to make a, quote, convention-like community. So that's the vibe. So originally in 2012, it started out with only 2 aminos, a K-pop amino and photography amino. However, many new aminos eventually were created into their own apps and sites. I will talk a bit more on my personal experience with amino a little bit later in the video, but these apps became relatively well known and popular in their respective community. Once amino was more established, after most broader aminos were made, they started making like very specific aminos. For example, instead of an amino for anime, there's an amino for a specific anime, like Haikyuu. These different communities could be like hyper specific. Now it's gotten to a point where there have been so many aminos, I could not even try to name or count them all for the sake of this video. And I'm not 100% sure when this ability was added, but a big reason for this is that there is an ability for an individual, any user, to create their own amino. This led to a lot of hyper-specific aminos and a lot of aminos that were kind of like adjacent to one another.
For example, there was a K-pop amino, and then there's also a BTS amino. But there's also a BTS Maknae line amino. And I bet there are probably aminos for the specific BTS members as well.
Again, a lot of adjacent and also getting more and more specific aminos were created. And while maybe this specificity and diversity may make it easier for people to come together, I actually did not enjoy this. I felt like this level of like subdivision was a bit too overwhelming, and I got a big sense of FOMO, like no matter where I was. Like it didn't matter which amino I was in, I felt like I was missing something important. But before I get too far into like my personal opinions of amino, I want to finish this exposition. Aminos also went off and ventured into things that were more than just fandom. I saw aminos that were broad and were like just to meet friends. I also saw aminos that were to like help learn a language, for example, and served as an educational platform. There were even dating site aminos, and I'm sure that the majority of these people on them were tweens and teens, so like let's not even touch that, okay? Again, I'm sure that most of you guys have had experience with amino, if not at least heard of amino. It was pretty well known in the late 2010s, and I think probably became really popular during 2020. I know at least that's what took up the majority of my day in 2020. So a few times over the past couple of years, I have gotten nostalgic and I've logged back onto amino just to kind of lurk and see how things are going. And when I'm on, insert tumbleweed rolling across the screen, it's a wasteland. Before I get more into what happened, I feel like I should talk a little bit more about my personal experience and connection to amino. As you guys may have guessed, I was pretty active on amino. I joined pretty early. My first amino was cosplay amino, as I used to really be into cosplay. I would love to get back into it someday, but that's an adventure for another video. Anyways, yes, I joined cosplay amino in 2015, which I was 13, by the way, if that puts it into perspective. So I've been on amino for a long time. I heard about cosplay amino from YouTube videos. I am not 100% sure if amino like sponsored YouTubers to talk about amino, or if it was like organically talked about, or if it was a mixture of both. I'm sure it probably was a mixture of both. That's just to say that it was promoted pretty heavily on YouTube. Like I felt like shout outs in like YouTube videos were pretty common. Anyway, amino was widely recommended to others within fandom. I joined cosplay amino and I loved it. Not only could I engage with the cosplayers that I admired, I could discover more cosplays, I could get some tips or advice, as well as see specific reviews or tutorials. I even contributed to some myself. There were cosplay challenges and themes you could join in, and I didn't feel like intimidated to engage with people, unlike sometimes how I feel on other social media platforms. That being said, cosplay amino was not my peak for my amino involvement. No, in fact, a very defining part of like my online history lives on got7 amino. So flash forward a couple of years to 2017 and I am solidly an agase, okay? I have graduated to the cutthroat jungle of K-pop stan Twitter and I was doing pretty well for myself. However, my mental health was not really doing so well. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can imagine the effects that spending your life on Twitter can do to a person. Honestly, I don't have enough time in this video to like trauma dump and elaborate more. So long story short, I decided joining got7 amino and it was amazing. It was a breath of fresh air, if you will. I just needed to get off of stan Twitter, really. Anyways, I didn't have to worry about fandom wars or that my content wouldn't reach the correct audience. Everyone was approachable and easy to become friends with. And then when 2020 hit, got7 amino was probably my primary source of social interactions. There were group chats and community events. I was even a part of a got7 craft club that had like monthly group themes and projects and challenges. Also, you get the enjoyment of having your own blog. I feel like we could finally experience what it must have felt like for millennials to have their own Tumblr blog that they could fully customize. Like, it was addictive. I spent hours just like formatting what my blog post was gonna look like. I'll be showing like pictures on screen during this to like get the vibe, maybe. Eventually, I did get back to everyday life and I started college. And basically, I didn't have time or the energy to really like live online anymore. And I feel like a lot of people also felt that sentiment, you know, after the main wave of 2020 kind of hit. I think in the particular case of got7 amino, it also didn't help that got7, you know, left JYP and started doing more solo work. But I was also a part of other aminos and they also almost all like got deserted. So that might have played a factor, but the overall consensus is that most aminos are pretty much dead. Like, you can see how many people are online in each amino. Like, it will show you online now and you can see the list of people that are active and like what they're doing. got7 amino used to chill around 300 people online at like any given time. They sometimes are higher, sometimes lower, but I feel like 300 is a good average. And for a while, it used to be around 12, like 2022, whenever I would check in, I would see maybe 12 people online and I'm like, ooh. But now in 2024, I went online to write this video and there was only one person online and that was me. And I also checked other aminos as well. Like cosplay amino also had just me. The most active amino I found was an amino that had blog templates and they had 7 people online. So that was like the most active one. So you may be wondering, what happened? How did amino, a platform that probably had thousands of people collectively on it daily, become so desolate? I think it was affected on two ends, or I guess both ends. First, the people, the users, ourselves. Now, as I've already kind of mentioned, I am comparing amino numbers from 2020, which obviously the number of people online and looking for any sense of community and dopamine probably are significantly higher than now, right? Like the people online in general were probably higher. How much? I don't know, but that's just a guess. I don't have a PhD in this, so. Anyways, I myself have already mentioned that, it affected my personal use of the app. And I'm sure on a broader scale, people, grow up and get busy. Not to generalize the age group of the users, because I did see many young adults and adults, but amino, is really attractive to more of the tween teen demographic. And I know personally, as I got older, I quite literally had less time to sit and engage with the internet. And I'm sure this was felt by everyone at some point to varying degrees, However, that itself shouldn't be enough to shut down a whole social media site. While not 2020 numbers, I was a part of amino communities well before, and they were still doing perfectly fine. There are also a lot of other social media platforms that obviously are still up and running. That brings us to what happened on Amino's end itself. So in 2021, apparently the creators of Amino sold the site to Media Labs. I will not go through every criticism against this new ownership, as I think there are people out there who have made videos that probably have a better understanding than me and maybe firsthand experience than me, but I will kind of summarize the general consensus and the findings and the big things. One big downgrade is that the servers are just not running as smoothly. Many people are complaining about this, and I even felt like it was slow and laggy and just not working right whenever I was on it while getting everything together for this video. It didn't run as smoothly, and again, I don't know if it's because there wasn't as many people online, but that doesn't make sense because I just don't know. Also, many communities started experiencing a lot of bots taking up their server. On an even more serious note, sometimes these bots would post or send malicious or inappropriate links, and there were not really any safeguards in place. Additionally, apparently they tried to roll out a live stream feature, and as you could guess, many were not appropriate or suitable for kids. They also just didn't serve the app at all. It just really everyone that was on Amino were kind of I don't get this feature, and then the feature was misused, and so it was just not good all around, So a lot of the trouble and criticism I found actually is kind of just due to the general issues and dangers of the internet that kind of come with being in digital spaces, sadly, such as bots trying to steal your info and bullying. But again, Amino didn't really have much help to safeguard that. It was really serious too, because many of Amino users were children and minors, so they were being shown inappropriate content, and they just by virtue of being younger are more vulnerable to malicious scams. All that being said, I just wanted an excuse to relive the good old days. Okay, maybe good's not the best word for it, but I keep it close to my heart either way. I would like to say that I do feel lucky that I fortunately never encountered any of these big problems while I was on Amino, at least to my knowledge. So I will continue to think back to my Amino days fondly. I truly think the idea of Amino was amazing and wish that it could have continued to be a safe, thriving community for us, but now we shall all just reminisce. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Please like and subscribe and check out my other videos if any of that interests you. Let me know in the comments what, if any, Amino communities you were a part of. And have a great day and see you next time. Or maybe not. Bye.